Vancouver and to Whistler.
Amazing. Maybe you can connect with Dennis.
I don't ski.
Yeah, I'm going skiing.
Well, enjoy it. Whistler is one of my favorite places in the world.
Yeah.
How about Alex?
I've
Where
been
are you,
enjoying
Alex?
everything here.
All right. Hi there. I'm Alex. I'm from Puerto Rico.
You're in Puerto Rico right now?
Yes.
Wow, that's super cool. Hold on. Give us a second,
We're good
Daniel.
to
We're
go.
just going.
Sorry.
We're just getting to know everybody. Julie's
cool.
at the back. How you doing, Julie?
Hi everyone, standing over here.
You got Sue. Sue, where are you
Hey.
located, Sue?
I'm in Arizona, but I was with you on the moon yesterday.
The moon. Woo! That was super
I took a
cool.
photo of you two out there on the moon.
Oh, thank you so much for that. That was super cool. I had a very dark tan.
Yeah.
Who else
that
we
was
got
Sue
here? Rella.
Glasgow. You were at the other event. Brilliant.
Yes, I was. I was in Engage.
Amazing.
Well,
We have Rella. Where are you, Rella?
Hey there, I'm in Iowa, in the USA.
Sweet. Iowa.
nice.
And then we have Metus. Where are you?
Hello, Hong Kong.
Wow.
I'm current.
Great.
I'm
Fantastic,
in
so
Hong Kong.
international.
It's 4 a.m. over here.
4 a.m. Well, thank you so
4
much for showing up. Wow. Hold on. I got to
That's
figure out how to
dedication,
fund my
man.
tools here. Whoops.
That's dedication.
How do I get back out of here? Closed. 1 second. I gotta give you some hearts for that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Big oil.
And who else? We have two more people. Caitlin.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm so
Oakland, California.
yeah,
The OC.
yeah. It's
Awesome.
nice
And then it is, I'm sure it is. I was just in San Fran last week. Matt, where are you?
I'm in Vermont.
In Vermont. We got everybody around the world. Oh my goodness. We got
We
Hong
do.
Kong. Oh, this is Madrid, Vancouver. Wow. This
Only
is
in
super cool.
VR.
Washington, D.C. Only in VR.
Only in VR.
All right. So carry on, Daniel.
Alan,
Let's
you
get
ready?
this smoke dragon on the road.
Let's get it on the road. All right. Without any further ado, please give it up for Alan Smithson, CEO of MetaVRse. Is that correct? And of the
It is.
VRA Association. Alan Smithson is doing amazing work with enterprise VR, but also in the education space. I think we have some news coming from you in the next months, and that I'm not going to spoil anything if you have anything planned for that. So I'm going to hand over to you, Alan. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you so much. Thanks, my
And,
friend.
yeah, all right, I'll get out your way. Over to you.
All right. So I'm actually going to present from over on this side because it feels more comfortable for me. It's okay.
Sure.
And then I'll turn here quick. Did everybody see everything? No problems? All right. So thank you, first of all, for Daniel and Laurel for pulling this amazing event together. It's honestly been an amazing honor and privilege to be part of this incredible world first. Think about this. This is the first time in the world anything like this has been done. I actually was part of Merging Realities conference 2 years ago, and that was the first ever global conference in VR. And this one here is probably, I would say, 100 times larger. So, it's just amazing to see this whole conference, how many people from all over the world, Hong Kong and everywhere, so together. I'm going to go really quickly through this presentation because there's a lot. How can XR democratize education globally? And let me just see if I can advance. My personal mission is to inspire and educate the world to think and act in a socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable way. And I believe that we all kind of feel this way. Anybody who I've met through the VR industry really believes that this technology has the potential to educate and inspire the world and build a world that we are all proud to live in and the one that will sustain us forever. So that's my mission. This is my why. My daughter Holly on the left and Abby on the right. These are my daughters, and this is why I get up every day and work my ass off to be a world leader in this stuff. So I don't know what happened there. All right. We're currently writing 2 books on the subject, XR for Business and XR for Learning and Education. We have 2 podcasts of the same name, XR for Business podcast and XR for Learning podcast. My wife, Julie, at the back there in the pink shirt, she is the host of the XR for Learning podcast. And all of the information that we've learned through the podcast and that we're learning constantly will be in these books, and they'll be updated every year because, as we know, as soon as the book is published, it'll be out of date. So those will be available later this year. One XR for Business this year and XR for Learning next year. This is an interesting stat, and I think it's really important. The top 20% of income earners spend almost 6 times as much on their children's education as the bottom 20% of earners do. And that's from Ray Dalio, a very, very wealthy individual. He wrote a book called Principles. This kind of shows you how important education is to parents around the world. So can you guys give me 1 second? 1 second, sorry. How do I mute myself for 1 second? I'm sorry.
Alan, I'm really sorry. I'm getting a couple of messages that your slides aren't progressing for the people in the room.
Okay,
I'm really sorry about that.
How's that one?
Let me see.
Can they see that? It should say linear growth.
Let me see if I can get that for the others.
Give me a happy if you can see it, or is that a sad? I think that's
linear.
I don't know
growth.
if that's sad.
Okay. Tell you what, I can advance the slides for you if you tell me next slide. Are you guys seeing? Wait,
No,
are you guys
they're not
seeing the slides advance? I think some people are. No. This is annoying. Let
Very
me
much
see
so.
this. How about now?
Yes.
Can you see linear growth?
Yes.
Yeah, now it's
Okay.
There we go.
Let me
Okay.
try and. Okay, wait. Just
Okay,
one
I'll let
test
you
before we
advance
keep going.
them. Thank you,
Wait.
Daniel.
Yeah. 1 second. If I did it advance now?
No, not for me.
No. Okay,
Nope.
that's.
Let me try it.
Yeah, please.
How about that? How's that?
no.
Also not. This is annoying. Okay. This is the one thing that we still need to fix in VR.
Can everybody see this slide? It says YXR, Y now.
I'm seeing
No.
linear growth. Who's seeing
I'm seeing
linear growth? Linear growth. All right. Let me reset the browser. See if I can do it this
Sorry,
way.
guys.
Sorry, I apologize for this. Resetting the browser now. Okay. Did that reset for anybody?
I think it's mine says YXR, Y now.
No, we still see linear growth.
Linear growth. Did that change exponential growth?
No. Still the same.
No. Okay. Right. All right, Alan, I apologize. We're going to reset. Do you think it's a good idea, Fox, if we reset the space and try again?
Yeah, probably best.
I think. All
All
right.
right, we're gonna reset
bear
this
with me.
space. Sorry, guys. It is worth it, I promise. Bear with us.
All right.
We're resetting the space.
Resetting the space as we go. Okay, so I'm back in, and now I'm going to try and bring up the slideshow again. So, apologies.
This is the
for
joys
this.
of being first in the world, guys.
Exactly. Exactly that.
I love it.
It.
You know, we wouldn't be pioneers without the tech demo crisis. I can't tell you. Well, here, I'm going to come up in front while you figure that out, and I'll talk to everybody here. One of the things, I've been a tech entrepreneur for a while. Julie and I invented the emulator, which is a big see-through touchscreen DJ controller, big, huge glass touchscreen DJ controller. And one of the things that we realized is that no matter how much you prepare for a tech demo, something always goes wrong. So you always kind of have to really be ready to to fudge it as you go. So I can see the title screen again. Is that title
Okay.
screen behind me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you try and just control it once by yourself, and we will tell you if that advances for us.
All right.
So
Let's try
stand
it
where
again.
you are. Just click on that.
There we go. Did it advance for everybody?
No.
It should say LinkedIn.
No. All right. Let me try.
no.
Let me try.
Okay.
Right, if it... So is that advancing for anybody?
No, still the same.
My word. Okay. Did it advance for you?
Well,
I tell you what, I'm going
no.
to put it in the back end. I'll put it in the back end really quickly. Just bear with me. 1 second.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about this, guys.
It's all right. No worries, guys. Anyway, so I'm going to get back to. I'll talk about. I'll just talk quickly about education in general and why this is important. So, obviously, being a new technology, people keep asking me, what is it going to take for this technology to be pervasive in schools? And I can tell you, it's going to take this stuff working. This stuff over here is going to have to work if we're going to make this, bring it into schools.
Sorry, Daniel.
What is everybody wearing? Dennis, what have you got?
Number 3.
So one of the things that I really, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. One of the things that I realized yesterday, actually it was a huge realization. I spent 3 hours setting up my Vive computer, restarting, reinstalling all the drivers and everything, updating Windows, updating Steam, connecting all the cables, getting the base stations ready, and I spent 3 hours getting it ready. The next morning, Steam did some updates and wouldn't let me do anything. So people ask, why isn't VR in schools? It's exactly this reason that it's really hard for people, especially students and teachers, to learn on a platform that is hard to be predictable. If it's not able to work all the time, you're going to have a real problem. And that's why I'm right now. Oh, sorry, Daniel.
I think we're ready.
Good?
I'm just going to reset. I think we might have
Sure.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the one thing I really love, and I don't know how many people here have an Oculus Quest, but I think this. We good? All right.
Almost coming in. All right, so let's.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Do this.
So I'm just going to say, I was just going to talk quickly about the Oculus Quest. Having the ability to have standalone that you can just pick up and put on your face. So I spent 3 hours getting my computer ready. The next morning, spent another hour with updates, and it's still never get it ready because I had to present it yesterday. So I just grabbed my Quest, I side-loaded Engage, and within 10 minutes, I was up and running, presenting on stage. And so I think there's a really huge potential here now that we have these standalone units to bring them into schools. And one thing that I talked about yesterday is that we've got controllers. I can press a button, and but wouldn't it be great to have hand tracking? And once we have hand tracking, we can get rid of the controllers. And why that's important in schools, especially in educational facilities, is that you already have one device, the headset on your head. You have here. Let me see if I can figure this out. Yeah, there we go. You have the headset on your head, and that's one piece of hardware that you're bringing in. To bring that into two controllers as well, this is a huge problem for schools, because now you have three devices that have to be paired to, unless you duct tape them together or glue them together. How do you know? And if you have a classroom of 30 people, that's 90 pieces of equipment that you have to keep organized. That's never going to fly in a school. But having a headset where hand tracking, everybody gets a headset and they hand tracks and they're ready to go. This is, I think, the sweet spot for this. And let me just run over here and see if I can adjust these now.
You know what I think it is, Alan?
What?
I think it is moving, but it's very, very slow.
Okay, so let's do this. Let me advance the slide. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I've advanced the
Not-
slide.
Okay.
Maybe give some hearts when you see the next slide. How about that? All right, so the slide yes, some.
I think,
you should
Alan,
see, yeah.
I think you might have to improvise and talk from the hip. I'm not
All
sure
right.
I'm going to get the slides working.
That's okay. What are we going to do then?
That
We're
worked.
going to put it on slide
That worked.
3. Can you guys see my kids?
That worked. Okay,
So,
I'm
oh,
seeing
some
that.
there. Okay, I'm gonna leave it on the slide with my kids anyway because I don't want to picture me up there. So. First of all, it's been shown in studies, and they're not massive studies. We're still figuring this out. But retention rates with virtual, augmented, and mixed reality are through the roof. And one thing that I realize here is you'll never forget being in this space because you're literally in the space, and it feels as visceral as if you were actually here. And I'll never forget that Dennis has purple hair, and that Matt shows. It will allow us to truly democratize education learning. One-to-many interactions. So imagine a teacher, 30 students, right? A teacher comes in, does the class for 30 students. But what if you could have one-on-one learning with an individual, and it's an avatar. So it's an avatar of me, and I'm puppeteering it. But now, if I'm looking at, let's say, for example, I'm looking directly at Dennis, but because of the algorithms, I should be able to look at every single one of you directly, and you feel like you're getting a one-on-one experience, even though I'm talking one-to-many. And this is a really, really excellent example of how we can take the best teachers, educators in the world, and give them a platform that really amplifies what they're doing. And we're already seeing this with online programs like MOOCs. I really think it's awesome. One-to-many interaction. Let's put 10 years out for a second. Right now, I'm wearing an Oculus Quest. It's fairly lightweight. It's standalone. But let's be honest, it's kind of heavy. It's kind of clunky. I've got a big box glued to my head. But let's fast forward 10 years. Glasses will be super cheap. Like we're talking in the range of $100. There will be better ones. Like anything, you can buy a $300 smartphone. You can buy a $1,300 smartphone. But there will be a vast range of technologies available. Now, the other thing that will be available is super high-speed internet everywhere in the world. So places in Africa, they're just bypassing fiber altogether. And companies like SpaceX and OneWeb are launching satellites into orbit, and that will give us a really broad spectrum 5G speeds everywhere in the world. And what that will allow us to do is offload some of the processing power from the glasses to the cloud. Sorry, let me see if I can. How do I get rid of my thumbs? There we go. Oh, thumbs up. There we go. So we'll be able to take the processing power off of the headset and devices and phones and put them into the cloud. And what that will do will allow us to have what's called edge computing. And what that means is some of the rendering power that's going on right now. I don't know if you have a VR headset, but if you feel in the front of your VR headset with your hand, it's probably a little warm because there's a lot of processing going on the device itself. On higher end headsets, it's going on in the GPU, the graphics processing unit. But what cloud rendering will allow us to do is take the difficult, hard parts of rendering and offload it to the cloud. And therefore, in 10 years from now, when we're wearing glasses, I'll be able to plug an avatar beside me and say, okay, here's an avatar. It kind of like Siri or Hey Google or what's the Amazon one? Whatever. You'll be able to call it up. A little avatar will appear and will guide you through anything you want to learn. So imagine learning anything. You want to learn how to repair an engine? Okay, your avatar pops up, shows you an exploded view of the engine, says, that's the thing you need to build. That's the thing you need to fix. Here's the exploded view of the engine, and here's how you can fix it. And think about, when we're able to not only call up an avatar, and that avatar could be fully AI driven, just knows what you're looking at in context. Because, right now the Oculus Quest has 4 cameras in the front. You got, one on each corner of the headset. And what that does is it allows us to have a view of the world. And these headsets we'll have not only cameras viewing the world, so it knows in context what we're looking at, but also would have eye tracking, so it knows specifically what we're looking at. So if I'm looking directly, I'm sorry to use you as a guinea pig here, Dennis, but if I'm looking at Dennis's head, it will know I'm looking at Dennis and be able to give me advice in context to what I'm looking at real time. So personalized, contextualized learning anywhere, anytime. And so this is where the promise of democratization of education really comes into play, because you'll be able to have, and the only cost in the future will be the content creation. So what we're doing at MetaVRse is we're working on a platform that'll be announced later this year, but it will allow people to create experiences with no code and with very little experience, but through the web. And what this means is that now you don't have to, slides are working for, oh, okay, cool.
Alan, that means if you say next slide, Fox here will advance them for you. Can we try that quickly?
Sure, next slide.
Everyone
Tell me if
seeing
you
that?
can see it? Yep. So next slide. All right, I'm going to go back into the presentation and I'll just move over here. So this is my kids, it's my why. Next slide. All right, we're going to rock and roll through this now. Now I don't have to wing it. We're writing 2 books. Next slide. We're writing 2 books on the subject, XR for Business, XR for Education. They'll come out this year, XR for Business, and next year, XR for Education. This stat I already read, the top 20% of income earners spend almost 6 times as much money. Basically, people want the best for their kids, and they are willing to spend whatever it takes to get that. So this is what we're seeing around the world. I know somebody was here from Hong Kong. People in Hong Kong spend enormous amounts of money to educate their children. Our children are the future of all of humanity. So we have to spend whatever it takes to do that. Next slide. So the problem right now is that education and everybody learns in linear growth. We are expecting linear growth for all of humanity. We've been experiencing linear growth. What's happening right now? Next slide. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Here we go. So why XR and why now? Over the last kind of 30 years or 40 years, we've really seen, the massive growth of the computer industry. And the computer industry had this beautiful, growth, and then it tapered off. And then mobile phones had this massive growth. But if you look at how long it took from, computers took 20 years to kind of get mass adoption. And then, the mobile phone industry took 10 years to get mass adoption. XR is going to be about 10 years as well. But we're really seeing this fast, rapid adoption of this technology. And so to put it in perspective, in 2018, Sony PlayStation sold 1.5 million VR headsets. Sounds like a lot, but it's not that many when you consider there's 2 billion mobile devices in the world, or 3 billion, sorry. But last year in 2019, Sony sold 5 million VR headsets. That's a 4-fold increase. And so we're going to see that, and that's just going to double and double and double. So next slide. That perfectly correlates with the education market. And in 2000, we had a $2.8 trillion global education market. And this is all thing education. So this is K-12, universities, colleges, and business training as well. But this is forecasted to grow to $10 trillion by 2030. $10 trillion. Think about that. This is the gross the GDP of massive countries. And so people and companies are spending enormous amounts of money on this. Next slide. This is also contributing to this, the convergence of technologies. Now, there's about 140 emerging technologies coming online. They all kind of fall into these ones up here. So you've got 5G, cloud computing. We just spoke about cloud and edge computing, IoT, so Internet of Things sensors. And what that does is allows you to see data about anything in the world. And we're going to have sensors in how far you walk. There's going to be sensors in there's already a dozen sensors in your wristwatch, sensors in your phone, sensors in the glasses, everything. And then you have AI. So once we have data about everything, how do we make sense of that? And that's what artificial intelligence really will do. And AI will allow us to not only make sense of what we're looking at real time, but also make sense of all the data that we collect collectively as humanity. And so things like autonomous vehicles, my brother didn't believe that autonomous vehicles were going to start to take over real driving jobs. And I said, well, look, when a person gets in an accident right now, we don't all get smarter. But when an autonomous vehicle gets in an accident, all the autonomous vehicles get smarter because it learns from that. And that's called exponential growth. And that's what this blockchain will be able to, keep track of people's assets, keep track of who does what. And we're already starting to see really great use cases of blockchain for things like music rights and art rights. So who created the rights and being able to do that. And then, of course, VR and AR. Next slide. Sorry, I'm just going to take a quick drink if I can find my cup here. I really need a straw. So the types of VR training, types of immersive training, you got 360 video. 360 video is really inexpensive. You can buy a 360 camera for a couple $100. As long as you don't move it around and keep it nice and stable, you'll have a beautiful shots. And the Insta 360 cameras have a really, really incredible, beautiful stabilization. So you can run with it and then put it in VR and it's nice and stable and smooth, which is beautiful. But they have pros and cons to these things. So 360 video, for example, the pro of it, it's cheap, it's easy to shoot, but you can't edit it. Once you shoot something, if you want to redo it, you got to reshoot the whole thing. And so there are some downsides to this, where mobile phone-based AR has massive scale. You can build a mobile AR thing and put it out, and there's 2 billion AR-enabled devices right now. ARKit and AR Core combined have about 2 billion devices. So they have massive scale, but it has no immersion or very little immersion. You can use it as like a magic window to the world, but it's not like putting on a VR headset. CGVR, or like computer generated virtual reality, it's expensive to make, but very, it's kind of like being in this room. It's very, very immersive and really, really nice. And then you have mixed reality, which allows you to, in context, see the world around you and make sense of it and let the headsets make sense of what you're seeing in the world and give you information and context. One of the things that's really amazing with the HoloLens and Magic Leap and these things is your ability to call up an expert. Right now, it's just like a little video window. So imagine you had a Skype window here, and I could call up an expert, and they can see what I'm looking at and annotate on my vision. And this is super cool because now let's say I'm looking at a furnace, and I'm like, I don't know how to fix a furnace. Right now, I pull up a YouTube, and I look at my phone. I'm like, okay, pull the filter out. But imagine you could pull up the instructions right away, and the instructions will be right in front of you. That's the power of mixed reality. Next slide. So what's the promise of XR training and virtual augmented mixed reality training? What's the promise? The promise is lower costs to deliver. So, right now, if I want to train a bunch of people around the world, I've got to have a teacher 1 to 1 or 1 to 2 or 1 to 10 or 1 to 30, but you can't get much more than that. With XR, I can create a learning module and I can ship that learning module to 1,000 people around the world. And not only that, but be there to help them without having to travel. So that, easy to update. I can push updates to a headset. I can lower my travel costs. Right now, I'm in Toronto, you're all over the world, and we're having this conversation. You're learning right now. This is like the prime example of that. Can you go to the forward one slide? There we go. Higher frequency. So one of the other things that is really important to learners is the ability for them to practice. And so in VR, you can practice something until mastery. And a lot of times people don't like to make mistakes because they're afraid of what people will say. But in VR, they can't see what you're seeing, so you feel comfortable, you feel safe. Longer retention rates, or higher retention rates. Being able to learn stuff and retain it better. It turns out we as humans learn in 3D. I don't know why. The world we live in is in 3D, so we should learn in 3D. Lower turnover, employees learn at their own pace, higher employee satisfaction, and highly scalable. So next slide, please. So with retention rates, if you read something, you learn 5% of it. If you hear it, you learn 10% of it, and it gets more and more the more immersive the learning gets. And ultimately, the best learning in the world is the same as medical school: learn it, do it, teach it. And so by learning, doing, and teaching, you really get this kind of full holistic learning experience. And VR can give you that hands-on experience like no other medium we've ever created in history. Next slide. I'm going to skip these ones because they're just stats on the growth. But if you look at this is consumer spending versus enterprise spending. And if you look, the enterprise spending is going up like crazy. And that's just because businesses are realizing the full potential of this and they're investing in it. Consumers are like, yeah, it's good for video games and this. Parents don't understand that they can use it for teaching, and there's not a lot of content, and it's finicky, and there's a lot of reasons why consumers aren't, jumping on. But enterprises are like, oh, well, this makes perfect sense. I can train 10,000 people with the push of a button now, and push it out to the VR headsets, and I can have one headset for 100 employees. You're not going to have a headset every day in your work. That's maybe 10 years from now. But for now, I can put on the headset, I can learn what I need, and I can get back to work. And that's what's really important for people. Next slide. So what are some of the jobs that virtual and augmented reality will augment? And I'm just going to look at it. Oh, I got to look that way. Sorry, because I can't read the slide from this. Health and social services, manufacturing, and construction and education are the top 4. And you can see that they really will augment the way we work. It's not going to replace teachers. Oh my God, that is never going to happen. We need teachers. We need more teachers. We have a shortage of teachers. But what it will do is let those teachers be able to leverage their strengths and share them out to more and more people. Next slide. I'm going to skip this one. Next. So what are some of the considerations when building XR? These are some of the things to think about. Device agnostic. If I don't know what everybody's got in headsets, but I'm wearing a Quest now. Some people are probably on computer. Some people are on Quest, some are on HTC5, or it has to be device agnostic. You have to have the ability to push it out once, and that works on every device. It's really important because what they're going to buy, what they buy, and educators are going to buy what they buy, and trainers are going to buy what they buy. And we don't know what that is. And also, things are changing so quickly that, who knows what's the next thing is going to be. So we have to be device agnostic. We have to have natural interaction. Right now, if I want to point my finger, I got to squeeze this middle trigger thing, which is not really, natural. And like if I do 2 fingers, it does that. But wouldn't it be great just to reach out and you could see my hands and that's natural interactions. And I got to try the HoloLens 2 the other day, and I can tell you, oh my God, it's super cool. I looked down at my wrist, and the menu appeared on my wrist, and I touched my wrist, like physically touched my wrist, and the bigger menu appeared. I thought that was super cool. Enterprise security, you need to have the ability to secure the data, because these headsets not only track where you're looking, but can track your eyes, your head pose, your hand tracking, your gaze, everything. And so the amount of data that we're going to be able to collect about learners is astronomical, and we need to make sure that data is secured and not lost to the crowd, and very anonymized, so that we can collect the data and make better decisions around learning, but not make any one learner vulnerable to data breaches. Second one, performance analysis, analytics. We need to be able to take in the data, make sense of it, and then make analytics and course corrections. If, for example, you run a course and everybody's looking over here and making the same mistake, well, then maybe your course, everybody's looking over here making the same mistake. Maybe your course was designed wrong, and maybe you need to redesign the course. But if one person does it, then that's obviously their problem. But this allows us to make real-time corrections and improvements to the courses. Predictive experiences. When I get in the headset, I need to know that when I press the thumbstick, I can walk back and forth. That's not universal right now. We have no standard. So we need to standardize. What does it mean when I press the thumbstick? Or how do I teleport when I'm using my hands? What does that look like? We need standards around that. Sorry, to back up. Contextually aware, being able to know what I'm looking at in the real world, especially for AR, this is going to be a huge thing. Real-time communication and collaboration. Prime example, we're in this room right now. We can all collaborate. And send up some hearts for real-time collaboration. Woo! Here, hold on. Where's my hearts? Woo! All right. That's super cool. And then device asset management. How do we manage these bloody devices? When you have 30 in a classroom or 300 in a school or 3,000 in an organization, how do you manage these? We got to get rid of these controllers and be hand tracking, because having 3 pieces of hardware is just not going to cut it. Next slide. Thanks for the love, Ben. So this is an XR lab in a university, and to me, this is not where we're going with this. I can't even. I don't even know what to make of this. How the hell do you even know where to start? So next slide. How about this? This is we're getting closer, right? This is a standalone. This is the Vive Focus standalone VR headsets. In a nice case, you roll the case in, it's a classroom thing. You know, you have basically one of these for a school, and it would roll from class to class as needed. The charges on its thing, and maybe they build in, I don't think it's built in now, but maybe they can build in like a sterilization system like the Clean Box. But next slide. And this is what it looks like. Next slide. Yeah, there we go. This is what it looks like, you know, in deployment. How cool is that? You know, and all these people are experiencing something together. And I think this is super cool. Is it the future? I don't know, but I think it's really cool that they're pushing the limits with this. This is in China, and this was HTC Vive. Did this next slide? How about these? Now, how about that for a VR headset or AR headset, right? We're getting closer to a form factor that is reasonable. This was just shown off yesterday. This is the, oh, I can't even remember what it's called, to be honest. Vive. I can't remember now. Anyway, you can Google it. Yeah, just look, Vive Bug Eyes, I think is what they should call it. But, you know, we're getting close to a pair of sunglasses that people want to wear. Super, super cool. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about some of the experiences that you can have when learning in VR. This one here is a construction where you can learn to drive an excavator. And I've tried this, and I am literally sitting in a seat, and I'm in the cockpit of the, excavator, and I learn, and I pull this, and if I go left and right, the bucket opens. If I go left and right, the bucket opens and down. If I pull up and down, the articulating arm goes up and down. And I learned how to drive an excavator literally in VR in about an hour. Super, super cool, super effective. This is a group called Up360 Career Lab, and they've built 10 of these modules really to teach people just what it's like to be in these jobs. And so the really cool thing about this is that they give you the visceral feeling of being. They have a mining one, they've got an HVAC one, they've got an electrical. So kids can now go on and feel what it's like to be an electrician and learn that. And maybe they're like, wow, I really like this. And it gives people the ability. And the future of that would be, okay, how far before you have to go in? How much can you learn in VR before you even step foot in a workplace? I think this is super exciting. Next slide. So this slide here is frog dissection. So this is a group called Victory XR, and they've created a one-to-one frog dissection system. And what's amazing about this is that, yeah, all hearts for this. Some kids don't want to cut out frogs, and some do. So they make it optional for the kids that want to do it and the kids that don't. So it's been approved by the school, some school boards now. It's one-to-one learning, and it gives you all the learning about the frog without having to have dead frogs and the smell of that in your space. And really, do we really need to cut open a frog now to do this? So it's a little bit more humane. But kids can do real frog or not. Next slide. This is Nefertari's tomb. This was created by a friend of mine, Simon Shedebor, who's probably the leading person in the world in photogrammetry. He basically went into a real tomb and took thousands of photographs of this tomb, stitched them all together, and now you can walk in that tomb in VR and experience what it's like to be in the tomb. And the crazy thing about this tomb is you can't actually go into it. Nobody can go in. It's closed off because it's a heritage site, and they don't want anybody going in there. So you actually can't even go in there. So being able to capture places, sites, and things where cultural preservation, and not only cultural preservation but cultural understanding people around the world can now go in and understand what it was like to build these tombs and stuff. And you can build whole experiences around that. Next slide. How many people have tried the Apollo 11 experience from the group that made Engage? So Engage over there on the right here, where you see Engage, that's an education platform, kind of like AltSpace here. But they've also built their own experiences. And this one is so incredible. You're in a rocket ship. You get the whole experience of what it was like in I believe it was 1969, when they put a man on the moon. And this is the first that I cried. The sun first on the moon, I just had this kind of, the music was there, and I just had this moment where I cried in VR, and this was hidden behind the next slide. This is, I believe, Viative. It's an education group, and they've built over 500 VR education scenarios. So you can learn about the human heart, you can learn about physics and chemistry and all these different things, all in VR. They've got a huge catalog. It's not the most immersive, because it was meant for 3DOF headsets, but very, very cool, and very, very huge catalog of things that you can do. Next slide. This is the HoloLab, super, super cool, where you can go and start doing experiments in a lab safely. When I was a kid, my parents bought me a chemistry set, and I blew stuff up. And then I was like, okay, what happens if I add bleach to this? Well, it turns out bleach is a really powerful, bleach and ammonium. You can start getting crazy. So, imagine if you could make all these experiments in a safe way and, really, truly understand what it's like to add bleach in this and figure out what it is, and make some explosions within a very safe confines. And next slide. I think the next slide, if I'm not mistaken, that's not it. But there's a program called Labster. They just raised $20 million. And what Labster did was they created super high def, really, really high end, multi-million-dollar science labs that you would only find in exclusive universities, and they created it in VR. So any student in the world can now work in VR in a science lab that's millions of dollars. So this is incredible. This one here is an anatomy experience. And the great thing about this experience here is that you can walk around, you can learn where the bones are, you can separate the skin from the bones, and the circulatory system and the respiratory system, and the digestive system. You can really get an understanding. And I really wish this was around when I went through school. I had to memorize every bone in the body and regurgitate it on a piece of paper. So I wish that was around when I was there. Next slide. Yeah, right. I think everybody wishes that was around. This is a solar system, learning about the solar system, and this is actually what's called a merge cube. And what it is a foam cube. It costs about $20 at Walmart. You can buy it through educational discounts as well. And merge cube allows you to program on AR, so it's just a cube, a little foam cube, maybe 4 inches by 4 inches, but it's got these markers on it, and when you point your phone at it, it recognizes which side of the cube you're looking at, and you can spin it around. So imagine holding, a human heart in your hand, or a solar system, and it's really, really a great tool for educators. And not only can you consume the content, but you can make it fairly easily as well. Next slide. How many people have tried the Anne Frank house? How many? Yeah. This was the second time I cried in VR. I was in Amsterdam, and I went to the Anne Frank house. I walked around up the little stairway in the cubby holes and everything. And I was like, yeah, okay, I didn't get it. I had no idea until I watched it in VR, and I went through the same stairway in VR. I went in the little cubby holes, but it was told through storytelling. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, the story is beautiful, and many people have read the book, but to experience it in VR was truly visceral, and it shortened the amount. I didn't need to read the whole book to get the understanding of it. And I think the empathy of being able to put people in other people's shoes in VR is astronomical. Next slide. this is a content piece. So there's 1,000 360 videos and other VR experiences that have been hand curated by Steve Bambury from Virtualiteach. And Virtualiteach, you can find it online there. Just Google Steve Bambury. So we were on stage with him yesterday on a panel, so it was really cool. So thank you to Steve for putting in all the effort to make those 1,000 things. So just look for Steve Bambury from the next slide. Steve. Awesome. So those are the future experiences that I just showed there. How are we doing for time?
Yeah, you got a couple more minutes.
Couple more minutes? Okay,
maybe 3 more minutes. Yeah.
3 more minutes? Okay, next slide. So that was a bit about education. The next part of the presentation was all about enterprise training. So I've only got 3 minutes, so I probably won't get too much into this, but Walmart is using this and they're seeing 90% faster training. Sprint reduced their time to competency by 80%. UPS is using it to train all their drivers. So the drivers are now driving in VR, which is super cool because they can see, are they checking their blind spots? Are they signaling? Are they doing the things we need them to do before they even go on the road? And they've decreased their driver training by 2/3, by about 60%, which is incredible. And then Delta Airlines is now training their staff, both ground crew and pilots and airplane crew. So airlines have really taken to this. Next slide. I'll go until they tell me to stop. Is that okay with everybody? Good. All right. Sure. So this is 360 video training. Being able to just put somebody in an experience, some things that they need to look like. Look at. Maybe it's some errors. You look for the errors. Look for the anomalies. And this is great for retail, for manufacturing, for if you're new to a space, you can actually onboard people. So next this is Pixar VR, and I believe the video will it play? Oh, there you go. I'm going to leave it on this one. There we go. So how cool is that? Totally realistic training on something that, normally you'd have to bring all these people in, they got to train them on this. They can have them. Believe it or not, there's not enough people to work in the trade. So we have I think in the States, it's 4 million person deficit. So really, really needed this type of training. And so can you just put it to the last slide if possible? And then, because the last slide is a resource for everybody. They might want to take a picture of this if it's possible. If not, then we'll end there. Oh, there's haptic suits. That's going to be a thing. That's me with the haptics gloves. We're getting there. We're almost there. There's like 100 slides here. Sorry, guys. I get excited. All right, go back one. Oh, back one more. Sorry, back one more. That's it. There you go. Okay. So if you want to learn more about virtual and augmented reality, these are the news sites that I read and look at. The 2 podcasts that we have, XR for Business, XR for Learning. A new one with Labster came out this morning on xrforlearning.io, xrforbusiness.io, And if you want to learn more about MetaVRse, you can sign up for our beta now at MetaVRse, METAVRSE.com. Daniel, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
All right, Alan, give it up for Alan.
Thank you,
And I
everybody.
want to
Thank
give
you so much.
At the beginning and still pulled off an amazing presentation. You, all the work you're doing. And
Thank you
Fox,
so
also
much.
thank you for stepping in. Fox was the guy
Thanks,
who
Fox.
managed your slides. Good man, Fox.
Thank you
Good
so
man.
much, Fox.
Alan, I have a feeling that we might be asking you back to Educators in VR again sometime, maybe for an update with Julie as well.
It would be
Lovely
my
to have
honor.
you guys on.
It's an honor to be
All
here
right.
with everybody, and thank you so much for the opportunity to
All right.
share this information. And please do me a favor, everyone. If you have a VR headset, it is your responsibility to show as many people as possible the potential of this technology. So do as many demos. Everybody, thank you.
Right. Maybe with just slip it over their head with something really good.
Oh, you know what? We have
All
parties
right.
all the time, and everybody keeps asking us. So it's not hard to get people
Yeah.
excited. Throw them in Beat Saber for a few minutes.
Yeah, when you get the initial experience right, they come back. If you get the initial
They do.
experience wrong, you can really put them off for a while. But yeah,
Yeah, don't
it's
put
that
people
first
in
taste, isn't it?
in roller coasters.
Roller coasters
Oh my
and
God, please don't do
films
that.
and stuff. No. All right, wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
you
Where's
so
that
much.
button?
All right. Zombie. All right, Alan, thank you. Lovely.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. No problem. Right, who we got next? I think that's the end of this space. I think we have to, am I correct in saying this, Fox? Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. People have to choose the next event in their events, right?
Can we
This,
leave it open?
This event.
Daniel, is it
We
possible to
can
leave it open
leave
if
it
anybody
open.
has
Yeah,
questions?
you can leave it open. Yeah, sure. You can stay here. Anybody who
All right.
wants to watch the next event can choose that in their event. Over to you, Alan.
Sure, and
All yours.
I'll just stay here. If anybody has questions, I'll come down over here and
I think
answer
so,
anybody's
yeah.
question.
Thank you.
Maybe. Yeah, I'll just be right here. There we go. Hello.
I'm getting a message. Mm-hmm.
What's up, UB Pizza? You boy pizza? You can unmute yourself, I think.
Yes, I see. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just unmuting the audience 1 second. You guys should be free to speak now. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank
Sorry
you,
about
Daniel.
that.
Thanks, Daniel.
My pleasure. See you later. See you
Bye.
later, Bison. Bye. Hi, Ben.
All right, I think we can have an open conversation now.
Cool.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. So, quick question on training.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. I was just curious, when you look at what is the AR play a role versus VR?
Sorry, I missed that. What? Say it again.
How you
Welcome, Graham. Can you all see the first slide up here? WebXR in education. Can you all show me emojis if you can? Yep, we've got some claps. Fantastic, good.
Got it.
People can see that slide. Yay!
There's another camera in here.
There sometimes is, don't worry. Are you on megaphone, film crew?
Shouldn't be.
Okay, I can just hear you really well.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I'm just being right. Actually, wait, I must check the settings a sec, make sure.
Yeah. It has happened that sometimes the person filming, we've heard them talking, so make sure you mute yourself at the time.
Oh, I'm going anyway. I'm going to
Okay,
I'll be
yeah.
watching from outside.
As long as you still haven't got it, as long as you mute your character in here, that'll work. Because otherwise,
Yeah.
well, I might still hear you saying
Audio
funny things.
nightmare.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we've had a few instances.
Gabe, are you happy to set off?
Absolutely.
Right, wait one sec, ready?
Okay. Okay, one sec, yeah.
Okay.
Right. Gabe, have you got your
I'm gonna
microphone
go.
on? Double check.
I believe that I do, yep.
Fine, fantastic. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, one sec. I'm just going to disappear,
Oh.
and then the button will press.
I think she's gone.
Think we're good?
I'm now filming. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks everyone